I was gonna start us off by asking what you could tell me about the Travis and Steve act.
Whoa. Well, me and Mark do another band called the Mark and Christian Band, but we also make little comedy videos every now and then. And I think in this particular video, we were referring to each other as Travis and Steve. So we just kind of, I guess they were just names we thought of really quickly, and we just called it that.
People love Damien now, don't they?
Yeah.
They're always asking how he's doing.
When was the last time Damien made an appearance?
It's before he went to prison, I think.
He's out of prison now.
Oh, okay. He died. Were you going to say he died?
He died of... No.
To be fair, it's been a while since we've made one, but it's only because, again, we've spent most of this year, hiding away from each other, so when things are relaxed, we'd be wanting to make more.
Damien in lockdown would be great.
Yeah, we should do that.
We were going to make a documentary about Damien, and his dad was Dracula or something. Yeah,
we were going to get really in depth with his storyline before.
Map out the full backstory.
Yeah, exactly.
When did you kind of start off doing the wee sketch things? Was that stuff you used to do in school, or how far back did you kind of get into that?
Me and Christian used to skate together years ago, and I would always have a digital camera. We started making stupid videos back then. It's just accumulated to quite a few ridiculous videos and then we had the VHS camera from music videos, so I don't know, it's a weird one really. It's not really like the other stuff we've done. It was just one of those days where we just had an idea, did it and put it out, and that's about as much as we thought about it,
Was that VHS camera, is that the same one that you used for a couple of the music videos on this new Wytches record, the ones with the puppets?
Yeah, it is actually, because I've had a few. Some of the early music videos, I had this. It was like a reporter's, a VHS reporter's camera. So back in the day, it would have been quite expensive, but now you can get them for a couple of £100. But this one that I did for the music video recently is just a sort of £50 sort of handheld VHS camera, kind of cheap.
It's got that kind of nice aesthetic to it, doesn't it, though? The kind of gritty, grimy type thing going on.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of weird how, when you convert it to digital and you just sort of tweak the colors a little bit, because obviously VHS colors can be a bit sickly, especially the sort of stereotype VHS colors, really green and pinks and stuff like that. But if you make it black and white, it just looks like film. You
get that kind of noisy effect.
Yeah. I've done it a few times where it genuinely looks like film. So I quite like that. That's why I kind of black and white it at the moment.
Where did the puppets come from as well? Where did the idea kind of start to germinate for them to be involved?
Just thinking about a simple idea, and I think I just said puppets, and then we found some on eBay. They were really difficult to use, the string puppets. One of them was a hand puppet. I think that was kind of saved the video because the movement was really limited with the string puppets. Just kind of flapping their wrists around, and that's about all I could do with it. And I think one of them I could make his knee jerk a bit. And
forgot to mention that they were really tangled when we got them as well.
Oh yeah, gosh. Yeah, they were. Yeah, they just came all completely tangled together. We spent. Well, did you untangle them, Mark?
No. My friend's girlfriend tried to do it and untangled one, but yeah, it was just a mess, and none of us have any. So, none of us have puppeteered before ever.
Yeah, then we started making all these little props. That I think the main idea was just to make a set in itself, just so the video would look nothing like our other videos. There would be no sort of real life backdrop or scenario going on. It would all just be filmed inside a little set that we made ourselves. And well, you filmed it on the iPhone, Mark, didn't you? And then it sort of because we painted the whole set, and it looked almost a bit like the Simpsons set or something, and then the colors weren't right
on the camera. It just the consistency of the color, I don't know what it was about it, but when I started editing it like that, it looked bad. So I went through a long way of doing it, and I filmed it on VHS, and I filmed it off the screen, and then back into the VHS, then through the viewfinder. It took forever. It genuinely took me 2 weeks to edit that one.
Have you still got all the puppets and sets and stuff.
Yeah.
You broke the set up, didn't you, recently?
The set's broken up. We've got the cardboard pieces still,
All the furniture.
and the dolls are still in my shed.
I like the idea of you telling someone to go in and get a shovel or something when they're over at help with the garden, and they open it up and there's just 2 dolls sitting looking at them.
No. I say it's a shed. It's more of like a cabin. You know, it's like it's decked out. It's got like a sofa in there, a music system, and all that.
That's kind of creepier. Inviting people over to listen to a bit of music, and they just go in and there's 2 puppets sitting in there, staring back, glassy-eyed.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Have you still got Damien's mask as well?
Yeah, there's a few Damien masks now because it's this real standard skeleton mask. I feel like I even had one when I was a kid. This actual and you just turn it inside out, and that makes this kind of fleshy, sort of almost looks like skin that's just sort of melting off. Yeah.
No one would know how to recreate it unless they knew the exact one. You know.
We should put them on merch. On the merch table.
Yeah, flip them inside out and sell them for like a tenner.
Yeah. Bowls of bleach.
What's the strangest thing you've acquired from your time in the Wytches then? If you've kind of got these interesting objects kicking about, or props rather.
We have a lot of props. I mean, every time we do a music video, I sort of hoard the props because, like, just presume it, you know, one day in the future maybe people want to see them, but I'm not sure. I can't think of one thing that's really that weird.
Was there anything cool on the Road for Judah one? I feel like there probably would have been.
Yeah, I've got like the crown that you wore and like the green wig that Sam had on.
Yeah.
Bits and bobs, but nothing that strange. Like, we haven't done a video that weird, really. It's just sort of...
I mean, the strangest thing I've acquired just from being in the Wytches is a Marshall Shredmaster guitar pedal, you know, which is a real rockin' distortion pedal, but it was owned by our manager Julian and used in his time in Top Loader. Which I find that funny because, you know, I've only ever seen the Shredmaster used, you know, on like real face melting stuff, and then
metal stuff.
I think it might have even been on Dancing in the Moonlight. So I've got that.
Oh, look at
Shredding in the Moonlight.
Shredding in the Moonlight. So I have that. That's probably the...
I do remember the when we did the Seaside music video, we had like quite a big budget for like outfits, didn't we? So we went to like a fancy dress shop and we bought like the best capes there, and they were like £50 a cape. Do you remember? I've still got all of those. I've got like 4 like really fancy capes.
We always said we'd do a show, everyone wearing them, but we never did.
No, I know. Yeah,
I got that silver suit as well. That was fun walking around in that.
Oh yeah, you had the silvery one, didn't you?
Yeah, I think maybe it was like gold sparkle or silver sparkle.
Yeah.
Did you rent that, didn't you?
Yeah, it was just a rental, yeah. I'd be wearing it every day.
It's just showbiz, you know?
Do you tend to kind of hold on to stuff in life, or are you quite ruthless when it comes to clearing stuff out?
Oh, I hoard everything.
Yeah, same.
I hoard stuff, but I live in quite a small flat, so I really try not to, and I'm always throwing things out, but it just never seems like there's any space. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I know what you mean.
I keep weird things. Like I found a crushed up can of Coke on the floor, and it was from the Olympics 1988, and I've got that in like a...
And you got to keep that.
I remember when you found that, yeah.
I've got this weird, like, it's like a weird picnic box, like where it would have had, you know, you open it up and it'd have like plates and forks and stuff, and it's just got like packets of Walker's crisps from I found in the car.
I bet you watch those videos where the guy opens the cans from the war, don't you?
Oh god, I love those videos. Yeah.
Oh Dan, you'd literally just like, he talks about that guy all the time.
Really? Yeah. My girlfriend, watches those all the time as well.
Yeah, I think me and Carolina have a really similar YouTube interest.
Yeah, I think you do. The abandoned places as well.
Yeah, there's Steve 1989, then there's this other guy who I've only seen a few of them, but he's like popping popcorn from like 1955 or something, and
yeah, that's sketchy, man. Like, I'm really weird with like old food and old drinks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like to know that like I watched one that some guy was eating like was it like 70-year-old canned beef or something? It was
Mm.
fucking gross.
That's how a horror movie starts. You think you're just popping some popcorn for the 50s, but then it's got a bit of the blob in it. Fucked.
Ugh.
I mean, that kind of ties a little bit into this record in terms of the kind of ghostly, slightly horror-inflected imagery that you have, kind of as a motif throughout a lot of the songs. Does that kind of come from an affection for like Edgar Allan Poe type stuff and this kind of classical horror literature, or where is that kind of coming from?
Well, yeah, I suppose more. My mum's a big horror film fan, and so yeah, I suppose it comes more from the film side of things, like my interest in it. She had this VHS with Halloween 1 and 2 on it, and I probably watched that when I was, really young, 1 or 2, and it was, yeah, I mean, I guess that's where mine started. I know that Dan and Mark, well, it's just kind of a coincidence that we're all into the horror thing.
I think like most people like horror, don't they? But there's always the exception that some people sort of delve a little bit deeper and find the I don't know, maybe like cult horror movies, or like, I mean, we all like the old horrors anyway, like 70s and 80s horrors.
Like the kind of like the John Carpenter type stuff.
Yeah, like Chainsaw Massacre is one of my favorites. The original, obviously.
How old were you when you first kind of saw this stuff?
Oh God, I don't know.
I remember at my nan's, my mum used to leave. Well, we had just like a little stack of VHS tapes, and the same like 4 or 5 were there for as long as I could remember, and one of them was Jumanji. So I guess it was probably when I was literally a baby, a toddler, is probably when I first started getting into, or just found it really appealing.
Yeah, there's something about it when you're young. It scares you, but it also draws you back. You want to see it. You want to see more of it. It's really curious, sort of.
I remember watching
feeling.
Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one.
Yeah.
Like I watched that when me and my friend, we were really young, and for some reason, like, he wasn't allowed to watch horror movies, so he had to sneak in, like, take one from their like stash of films, and we'd end up putting them on and then regretting it, but also kind of not, like switching it off a little bit, and then like wait half an hour and then we'll watch the rest. It's like, yeah, that was good.
I remember seeing this really short animated film called The Sandman when I was really young. It's kind of like same sort of style animation as the early Tim Burton stuff, and it's about this man in the moon who comes down and eats this kid's eyes and feeds them to his children in the moon.
Terrifying.
And because the kid's not sleeping, so he comes and I think it's like a myth anyway. Like, but they just made this movie out of it. It's on YouTube. You should watch it.
They've always got that kind of Aesop's Fables thing at the centre of them as well, don't they? That kind of message, like trying to get kids to go to sleep or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that freaked me out when I was young, in a good way.
Can I just say, how is E.T. not a horror movie?
Yeah.
Like, E.T. used to scare the crap out of me when I was younger. It's so eerie, it's so creepy that, I can't.
I mean, you mentioned Jumanji as well. That's got like a kid turning into a monkey and shit.
Oh, yeah.
That's like pretty freaky when
That's
you're like
true, yeah.
6 years old.
Yeah, it's really creepy, that scene where they're like trying to figure out where that sound's coming from. They go into like the bathroom and Robin Williams is there all jungled up. I think he's shaving. Yeah. Oh, such a good film.
I was really disappointed with the cartoon, though, that came after it. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, it was in that sort of Wild Thornberrys style, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah. I didn't like that.
To come back to that you were mentioning the Sandman there.
Yeah.
We were speaking about that idea of them having a message, some of these things, kind of having a message at the heart of it that translates to children. When it comes to your songs, and we're speaking about the ghostly imagery, is it important for you to kind of have a message or something at the center of the song, or what is it you're latching onto that you're then kind of, that imagery is coming out from?
With me, it's just imagery itself that is what I'm trying to get across. I mean, I've definitely written songs that have a message or just a meaning, something inspired by, something like pretty directly. But with the Wytches stuff, it is always more about setting an atmosphere, and then I suppose when I listen to lyrics, I won't claim to sort of oh, that's what that's about, and then I move on. I kind of interpret things in my own way, and I suppose I'm trying to do that with Wytches lyrics as well. And yeah, imagery is really important because I think it then kind of impacts on the music, and then the music impacts on the lyrics, and so yeah, they're never really. Some songs have a kind of direct message, but for the most part, with the Wytches, it is sort of just creating an atmosphere.
So, like Dan and Mark, is that what you're latching onto when you hear those lyrics? Is that what you're kind of using to construct the other parts around them? Are you looking for that kind of atmosphere and that feeling, or how are you writing parts that then complement the overall feeling of the track?
I never really know about the lyrics until we finish the song anyway. Like, musically, it's always done before Christian does the vocals.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So it's not like, so we're not really crafting around his vocals at all. Most of the time I won't hear it until we've recorded it, or I mean, you'll sing a bit when we're writing the song or whatever, but I don't think even you have like the lyrics fully down at that point.
Most of the time they're not finished until it's time to record them, and then other more kind of straightforward songy songs are usually done, but then I probably won't sing them until we record because I'll get embarrassed or something.
Yeah. Well, the way I see it is like, when you go to draw something, especially like if you're going to try and draw something abstract, you just start with a blank page and you just draw and keep drawing and then see what happens. It's never like you plan it out,
That's what's so good about being in the same room together, because we don't really plan anything, do we, when we're jamming?
No, I mean, sometimes you don't even plan.
Someone would prick your ear up and be like, oh, that's good.
Yeah, one idea would just turn into a whole song. Like 3 Mile Ditch on the album was just one of those things where we were practicing for recording of the third album and then ended up just wanting to throw one extra in there and just wrote it on the day.
Yeah, the riff was kind of an old thing, but then
that existed before, didn't it?
Yeah, we always had a problem with trying to write that riff into anything, but then we just simplified it and got it in there.
Probably one of the most sinister moments on the record.
Yeah,
that kind of riff that it opens on.
Yes, it's that. Yeah, and I think the drop A tuning as well kind of just really brings it down.
Yeah, it does make it sound sinister especially when you play it clean in the you play the drop A clean at the start. I think that sounds great.
I mean, that's one of the things that it's kind of at the heart of the record, is the way that it ebbs and flows through light and darkness. What you're saying about how the lyrics kind of get added on afterwards, is that light and darkness and the kind of ratio of it on the record something that's very much then set and starts to form when you're constructing the songs in that kind of soundscape and that musical environment in the room together? Is that where that first kind of starts to take shape, and does it become quite solidified in that setting?
Well, I would say actually the kind of softer tracks, they're the ones where I would have had all the lyrics ready, sort of thing, because they're the ones that I suppose start out as just a guitar and vocal thing, and then it's always the ones where there's a lot kind of going on when the vocals are happening, which are the ones I have to kind of take back and like work on from home. But I think that's sort of my favorite part about the Wytches is that I think it's been a bit detrimental at times for us, but the fact that we have real heavy tracks and then we'll just throw in some soft ones, I that's kind of my favorite thing about the band. It's like you could bring in any style of song and we wouldn't sort of dismiss it immediately, because we just kind of we just vary through genres and stuff. I'm not sure if I answered your question there. I just went off on one a bit.
What you were saying there, though, about how the softer ones tend to be written outside of the room and the lyrics are kind of considered before you start to work on the soundscape side of it, are they more of a stream of consciousness than the ones where you're kind of trying to work top of it?
It's weird. I suppose in a way they are. I guess like a lot of songwriters, you're just kind of making sounds that sound a bit like words, and then as you kind of going through it, you start realizing that you are actually saying words, and then you start realizing that those words do actually mean something, or they're relevant to you at the time. And then I kind of will usually start writing the lyrics based off of one kind of lyric that I just started singing out of nowhere, and the rest will, I guess I kind of take something from that lyric and then kind of base the song off of that. Yeah. So I guess it is a bit of a stream of consciousness, really.
How does that operate for something like You Looked Happy to Me, the closer on the record, when it's one that's kind of going through the soft side and the heavy side of the group?
I demoed that quite a few years ago, and I think that chorus just got kind of heavy. I think I was probably just feeling it and just wanted to keep getting louder with it, and then it felt like it should just kind of blast off into something else, and then, because I mean that was something we used to do quite a lot, is we'd, if we were working on something soft, it would always have this big grand ending, because it just kind of felt good to do in the rehearsal room. And I suppose that's what I was saying earlier about, like, that's my favorite part about this band. The soft stuff doesn't really get dismissed. We kind of work around it, and it will always still have that identity. And yeah, I think a lot of the time we would sort of, when we had one of these softer things, it would just kind of get more intense. And I suppose, yeah, it comes from that. I mean, we have quite a few songs from our earlier stuff that they all did that. If they were kind of more pop or acoustic driven things, they would always kind of blast off at the end into this, epic thing.
I mean, yeah, again, like the closer to this one, where you start off on the bright note, and then before you know it, it's kind of morphing into this thing that's kind of pummeling you with this big kind of heavy thrashing instrumentation. Do you see the closing to the album as kind of open-ended, or more of a resolution to what's kind of come before it?
I think it is kind of, I almost think it's a bit of both. Yeah, I wouldn't say it resolves anything. I'm not even sure we all agreed that was going to be the last song. I think it was maybe just in the list of mixes, it was like the last one mixed or something, and it just kind of came as the
It does feel
ending.
right, like an ending.
Yeah. I think as well, we definitely didn't want to end it on a purely soft song. I think we've done that on all the albums. I think we all definitely wanted to end it on something rocking.
It's almost a little bit like an epilogue in some ways, because it definitely feels like it's kind of looking back and reflecting upon an experience, but it's almost from a perspective that's slightly removed from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah, it's got a kind of like a closing credits feel to it.
Yeah, for sure. When you're writing a song like that, do you have a specific person in your mind, or is it written about more of a collection of experiences and the kind of feelings that come from them?
Yeah, this one's definitely a collection of experiences with myself and with other people, definitely.
Does that change your approach to it, when it's kind of trying to tackle a spread of things as opposed to the one specific event?
Yeah, I mean, whenever I have written a song about one specific person, I would never have the guts to put it out, because it would be too obvious. So I have to vary it, throw in drag a few other people into it.
What sort of shape was that song in when you took it into the studio? Where was it kind of at in terms of the demo stage compared to what it became?
It was strange, really, because I'd written it in a drop tuning, and there were sort of, like not real chords, just these weird chords with all these kind of ringing notes that none of the guitars I bought 2 guitars to the studio, and neither of them would handle this drop tuning. And I think every time we demoed it, it could never really handle it. One of the notes was just like kept phasing in and out of tune, and so at the last minute, we just thought, well, I just kind of figured out what the most basic version of those chords were, and then just switched it out with that, just so that the guitar would stay in tune. And then when the riff comes in, it's back to like that original drop tuning. And that song was like really frustrating. I think at one point we all just hated that song and just could never really get it right. But then, I mean, Mark, you always talk about just simplifying things, and I think probably I took that approach and just wanted to simplify it.
That chord made it sound a lot lighter as well. So
yeah,
with the contrast of the heavier, angrier bit at the end.
Yeah,
I think that really made it gave the song something.
Yeah, just a little bit of brightness.
Yeah.
Is it sometimes almost harder to make something simpler than more complicated?
I suppose, yeah.
I think it is for you, Christian. Like even when we're writing Mark and Christian band stuff, you know, we'll have like a general idea of a song, and you're always trying, just keep trying and trying to add like more interesting chords, you know, and I guess like it's always fine to do that, but sometimes it can be fine to like we've done simple songs that we're quite happy with, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely an achievement to be able to write a nice melody around, you know, like the basic C and G sort of thing. It's definitely...
Yeah, it depends how simple. I think if you're making a simple song, then you need to look into like making it interesting in other ways, like obviously a nice melody, but you can also, I think, recording is important. Sometimes, and I hate to use the word vibe, but you know, sometimes you just hear something and it's not necessarily intricate or anything like that, but it just has a nice vibe to it, something warming about it that you just really like.
Yeah, just a particular feeling about it that kind of resonates with you.
Yeah. There's no real reason for why it makes you feel that way, and there's not really that much going on. But I get that, because like if I listen to a really standard song, but it's also recorded so crisp and fine, and it's just like, I don't know, it just seems a bit soulless.
It's almost a slight lack of restraint, isn't it? Like people have to go all the way and try and get it as close to perfection as possible.
Yeah, it is, and perfection is just I just don't think it's necessary at all. You know, if you just capture the song as you're hearing it, it just seems a bit unnecessary to smoothen it out and make it as perfect as possible.
Yeah, it's about finding that balance in between, where you're kind of tightening it up so the song can be improving it where needs be, but not improving it so much that it becomes soulless.
Yeah, I mean, like, definitely be in time and stuff like that. You know, no one really likes songs that are out of time. But like, you know, I listen to a lot of bands that they also, you know, most of them anyway, they self-record themselves. But like, I listen to this band called Giant Sand, and there's always like mistakes in there, but they don't care. They leave it in, you know. It doesn't. When you listen to it, it doesn't make you think. It doesn't make you think, oh God, I can't listen to that song again. It just shows, you know, that people are human. They make mistakes, and if you've been recording it all day and you make one mistake, but the rest of the take's fine, then just leave. You know, put it out. It's totally fine.
How do you know when you're in the studio, how do you kind of maintain that perspective so that you can make that judgment, as in not cleaning it up and making it too perfect and leaving enough room for the personality to come through, but also not leaving it too unvarnished? How do you kind of find that happy middle ground when you're there?
I think usually base it off the first time you're hearing it back, and if you're not hearing anything wrong with it, even though there are sort of like two moments or a few moments where things are like drifting off time or strings kind of out of tune, if on the first listen your main reaction is just, you know, to be quite pleased about it, I think that's when you know it doesn't need, like Mark said, there's some songs will just have this atmosphere that I don't know, it's just right for the song. It was captured in the right way, and
it's good to have like the engineer there as well, Luke, to have the outside ear on it. If there is something that we do need to do it again and we haven't heard it, he's not forceful about it. He'll just let us know, and then we can decide whether to do it again or not.
Yeah, and it's like I read this review. Well, it was a YouTube reviewer, and he was saying how it was tight, but it wasn't too tight. And I think that just comes down to I think that just comes down to the fact that we're not like incredible musicians. Like we
speak for yourself.
I feel like well, you know what I mean. We're not like professionals.
Oh God, yeah.
We're professionals, of course. Shit,
but we don't take it to the point of like a lot of bands now. Their producers will go and cut everything up and make it perfect. So maybe that's why it sounds so different.
I think.
I don't know.
I think as well, like, because we are, you know, none of us are sort of like shred masters. We just, I think as well, people respond to that, you know, just natural feel, you know, that it hasn't been tampered with, you know, with using software or whatever. I think people respond to that raw feeling. And I think as well, like, you know, it's always such a nice feeling when you listen to a song or like a whole album that you really enjoy, and it really doesn't sound like it took a mastermind to put it down. You know, it sounds doable, and
that inspires you to that inspires people to go and make their own music. And
yeah, not everyone can, you know, record an album that sounds as good as Dark Side of the Moon, but you know, that's just, they just set a complete different bar there, didn't they? And but we still, you know, we quite like lo-fi music anyway, so if it doesn't sound, you know, we just like it sounding big. Like when you listen to it through speakers, you want it to sound great, you know. You want to hear the bass, and you know, doing it yourself sometimes, I guess, like you could be lacking in certain areas.
I mean, that said, though, it does still sound like, you know, guys in a room together. You don't lose sight of that.
Yeah, I mean, we tracked a lot of it, but I guess because for the most part there was at least two of us playing at the same time, it kept that energy up. I think we used to, well, before we'd probably be quite scared about the idea of tracking it, because, you know, we'd sort of always seen the band as this kind of like clash of not a clash, but, you know, like everything just kind of molds together. And, you know, if you were to solo my guitar, it would sound like a monkey playing a guitar, and then, you know, same with Dan and mine.
Hey.
But no, I think, yeah, maybe before we might have been a bit. It might have seemed a bit daunting to track everything, and we'd probably all think that it was going to come out sounding like overproduced or something. But I think the fact that there was at least, I think 3 Mile Ditch, Mark played drums for that one, and then me and Dan were playing our bits, and so that one was able to be done as a live band. But I think for the fact that at least two of us were playing at the same time, it kind of kept that live feeling.
3 Mile Ditch, does that refer to a particular stretch of time for you as well?
Well, me and Mark are from the same little village, and that's how, well, it's quite a big place, but that's how we know each other. It's this village called Yaxley, and at one point I moved to this other place, this real secluded kind of, just this horrible little village that had nothing there.
Oh, it's really pleasant.
It was a really nice little village.
It's a really nice village, but
it's far away.
But if you don't drive like me, it's a real.
It was desolate, weren't it?
Yeah.
You know, there's not much there. There wasn't even a post office. There was like a post office van that would come around every like 2 or 3 days, so then
Yeah.
You know, that's how dire it was.
But yeah.
But you did have what's his name that lives there?
Oh, Warwick Davies lives there.
Warwick Davies lives there.
Yeah.
And I would walk to Yaxley, where Mark lived, to go hang out, and separating those two villages was like a big long road and you would walk along the ditch to get to Mark's, and it's where I used to think about a lot of lyrics, or I had been writing and recording that day, and then kind of later on in the day I would walk over to go see Mark, and I'd be thinking about what I'd just written, or I'd be listening to like a quick demo that I'd made, and I think a lot of the lyrics for the album I was thinking about doing that walk. So I think it was just a kind of, well, especially I referred to it in the song Silver Trees, and I'd written that song quite a long time ago, and yeah, that it referred to that that road and that sort of distance, and so it just kind of sounded cool for a title, and it had some meaning to it. I mean, yes, because a lot of the titles to our songs just, or you know, don't really mean anything. So it was, you know, it was nice for there to actually be some kind of meaning to it.
That said, though, a lot of the titles seem to evoke quite a strong image. Like if you think about something like Meat Chunk or Cowboy or Midnight Ride, like they've all got quite a specific kind of feeling and place attached to them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm referring to like our oldest stuff, like Grave Dweller and stuff. You know, they're just kind of just designed to sound creepy.
I mean, if they have if some of them on this new record then have more of a meaning attached to them, at what point in the process did they emerge at a different point in the process to what they maybe did previously? The titles of songs.
Yeah, I suppose they're always just taken from like a lyric in the album, but I mean lyrics in general are kind of strange for me because before I was a guitar player or anything, I wasn't like a writer. I wasn't keeping journals or things like that. So writing lyrics is kind of strange. You're just a guy trying to like make some songs, and then suddenly you have to be kind of real quick and clever with words and
people like analyzing your words.
Yeah, so
like they mean everything,
Yeah,
but you're just sort of, you were young then,
Yeah, so I think that's what I mean about the songs. Just trying to get some imagery across rather than like a message. Because I just simply because I just don't feel like I can, get my words out right for what I want to say sometimes. So sometimes just kind of thinking about the place where something happened, I'd rather just put that in the song than what actually happened, because I can't think of a kind of a metaphor for that moment or something like that. So
do you think of that place when you're recording?
Yeah, so yeah, I suppose when I'm doing the vocal take, I'm kind of like zoning into what I'm thinking about, what that song is to me, sort of thing. Yeah, I don't know. Whenever I come to do a vocal take, I definitely kind of get more in the zone than if I'm doing a guitar take. To me, is like, I don't know, just something really mechanical. You just it needs to be this and it needs to be that, and then with the vocal, it's just kind of like how I'm feeling, just kind of expressive. Whereas with anything else I'm recording, I'm trying to, be as precise as I can. And then, with singing, I'm just sort of, I feel like I'd get a better listenable vocal take if it had, if it was believable and emotive than just like all the notes are correct.
Yeah, the guitar tends to be more technical, and the vocal tends to be more emotional.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely not technical guitar parts, but I'm trying to be,
in terms of getting the note.
Yeah, I'm trying to be precise with it. Whereas with the singing, I'm just more focused on being in the expressing myself, and so there'll be a few like flat notes and stuff, but if it sounded like real phony, but it was perfectly in key, I'd probably not really be that happy with it.
For the other two of you, then what point in the process is the most emotional?
When we all hit a point in the song that's been arranged in a way that's, I don't know, like a crescendo in a part of a song or something, and when we just something as simple as us all hitting it at the same time, it just feels great. You've got a good takedown, and at that point when you finish and you all look at each other, you've got the takedown. That's a good feeling.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And for me, it's more so putting these little melodic parts on the mellotron and the organ and stuff, because I get to sort of sit down there for a while and think of something. And I don't know, I think it's the sound of the mellotron is just so beautiful that, like, even just playing those notes to the song in the studio, I guess that's kind of, quite emotional.
Can that sometimes pose a difficulty when you're writing, though, if everything you play on it sounds beautiful?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I've always been alright with melodies. I've always been okay with writing melodies, so it's never it's not too much of a hard task for me to write something on them. And most of the time, because the mellotron, how you play them is sort of single note. I mean, you can obviously play multiple notes on there, but like you can just play single notes. It sounds so nice, and I'd sort of hold myself back from playing more notes and just sort of keeping it simple and finding the beauty, like the really nice notes within there.
Do the melodies differ depending on the instrument you're writing on?
Yeah. Actually, that's true. I mean, I have at home. I have like it's electric piano, but it has like a few other settings, like organ sounds and stuff. I'll write it there, but when I'm at the studio and say I'm on the mellotron, I'll always find another note that sounds better just because I'm playing it on the actual mellotron. those things are just so nice. I just wish I could afford one, but I think they're like, I don't know, probably like
Way too much.
way
money.
too much. Yeah, they're thousands of pounds. So, but yeah, I'd love one. I'd really would.
Did you used to have a church organ, Christian, at one point?
I had a harmonium, which was like a pump organ. I've had a few with this charity shop that me and Mark used to go to. Do you remember, Mark? There was always organs in there.
Yeah, there'd always be like 2 or 3 organs. All of a sudden, there was just that harmonium was in there, and it was like a nice wooden harmonium, and it was just like we just had to have it. Do you remember? Like, and we got it.
They have like the drawers on them. You pull it out to get different tones and stuff, like a church organ would have, and you definitely got sort of that kind of sound with it. Yeah, that was it. I mean, yeah, it was a shame because I had to move out of that house, and thing was so heavy. I think my uncle took it and used it for wood. But
Did he?
Yeah, it was such nice wood that he took it apart.
yeah, no, it was. It's one of those things. I feel like at one point in time, every single instrument was like beautifully crafted. With all these like carvings in it and stuff, and it was just like nothing. It's just another instrument. But you look at it today, and they're just so much detail went into it. It was weird actually. These friends we met in Canada that they're in a band. They had made a trip to England, I think, to see the sights and everything, and they came to Peterborough, and I can't remember exactly where it was now, but where that harmonium was made was exactly where they were from, some kind of little town somewhere in I'm going to say Vancouver, but I'm probably wrong. I'm sorry, Shade.
I think it's Toronto, but then I might be
Toronto,
wrong
yeah,
as well.
it was somewhere there. But yeah, the where it had been made was exactly where they were from, which was kind of strange. But we used that a lot in the Mark and Christian band. I don't know if we ever used it in the Wytches.
It's probably on the home recordings, surely.
Oh gosh, yeah, everything's on that.
Well, just saying that though, none of that stuff is actually out there. So like, don't try and go looking for that organ sound in any of the songs.
Yeah.
That's on a tape somewhere, like in Christian's house.
Yeah.
Speaking of Canada there in Vancouver, was that where you had your run-in with Nardwuar?
No, that was at South by Southwest. 2013 or 14?
A wee while back.
Yeah, a long time ago. We were in this bar that we were playing the next day, and it was really busy. And I just saw him over there on his own.
On his own?
Yeah, just on his own with like bags. I guess he had records or stuff in his bags. And I tapped Christian on the shoulder and I said, "Look, it's fucking Nardwuar." And we were like, "Oh, we got to go and say hello." And he was really cool.
Yeah, we were like, "Oh, are you going to interview us?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Nope."
He didn't. He followed us on Twitter, but that was it.
Yeah.
Was he in character, or what's he?
Not initially, no. But then he kind of like livened up and did his whole like thing with the fingers and
The fingers.
he waves his fingers around and stuff.
That must be so tiring knowing that if any one person bumps into you or taps you on the shoulder, you've got to turn into this caricature of a person.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's true. Or you're just going to disappoint people,
Yeah, got to keep the mystique going.
I'm surprised though. I told so many people about it when I got home, and they were like, "Who?" And I was like, "What? You don't know who Nardwuar is?"
Yeah, it's weird. People
Certain
don't know.
type of person, isn't it?
A lot of people don't know, weirdly. I guess they do now because he's like interviewed loads of like big rappers.
I guess, when was that? You said 2013, 14?
I think it was 13.
Because it was only really when YouTube kind of came out that and when was YouTube, like 2006 or something? Maybe he hadn't kind of fully hit his stride in terms of...
Oh no, it was
traction.
14, sorry, 2014.
Oh, well, that's pretty, yeah. I don't know. Speaking of the kind of analog side to things as well, the studio that you recorded in it's kind of quite 60s styled and stuff, isn't it? Kind of with all the kind of old analog gear and things. Or
Yeah, they actually stopped doing analog for a while, which is one of the main reasons we didn't go back there for this last record. I don't know the whole story on that, but I think they do. I think the story was that he does the first ever digital recorder, which is kind of bizarre.
I'm not sure if it's like I think it's called an Atari Radar, and it's
Yeah,
like a digital console thing.
What you mean the first like digital thing that came out is what he now uses?
I'm not sure if it was like the first thing. I know
It might not be the first one.
Yeah, I know it's like an early thing, but yeah, we're still sort of set on doing it on tape. I suppose, we didn't have like the greatest budget to just try things out, and if they didn't work, then we'll go somewhere else. So we just kind of wanted to go with something we knew would work. And we had been to Luke's studio, because Luke, we met him in Toe Rag. That's where he was working, and I think over the years he just sort of built up his own studio. Yeah, so we went to him to do it on a similar machine that they used to use in Toe Rag, a Studer 16-track machine. But yeah, it's all old stuff in there as well, in his studio. A lot of old gear.
The tape you recorded onto had been recorded onto before as well, hadn't it?
Yeah, that kind of blew my mind, because I'm really into tape recording, and I always just assumed that you can't really use the same tape that many times. Well, obviously you can, but I suppose I thought in like a studio environment. But then again, he's it's all coming through such beautiful gear that it'd be hard to make it sound bad, I suppose. But yeah, it was definitely not new tape, which was interesting to me.
Have you still got the tapes from your recording sessions, or are they locked up in a vault?
We don't know where our first album tape is. No one knows where it is.
Oh, I was meaning the new one.
Yeah, that's it. I think the new one. I think he's probably recorded over it now. No, I think he actually said I think he said he might just keep that one. I don't know, but
It'd be nice if he kept that.
I've got the 2 reels from our second album, but I think we kind of ditched the tape on the second album. But then our first one, we don't know where that is.
Maybe if that was a thing, like going over the tapes, if that was a thing even back then, maybe that did get taped over by Toe Rag.
Yeah, probably.
Although didn't we have to buy those tapes, or Heavenly bought them?
Yeah, I think
so. Maybe they've got it.
Yeah, they probably do. I have a CD of the first thing we recorded in Toe Rag, because they were bouncing the stuff to CD, and it's all scratched up now though.
When was the last time you listened to that?
I tried listening to it recently because I found it and it just was skipping all over the place. Yeah.
I remember when the second album test pressing was Christian brought it round to listen to on one of my vinyl players that I had in my older shed, which again was like a decked out shed. And it sat in there for like a whole year, just like in a corner, just.
I think that was the first album.
Oh shit! Okay, yeah, and I just wasn't looking after it all. I think there was like things propped on it and everything. Like,
yeah, we used to be
God.
We used to be really careless with everything. And these days, I'm like boxing everything away once I'm done. Back then, I was just like putting, leaning drinks on my guitar and just
coffee rings on the CDs.
Yeah, eating lunch on my snare drum and all, just. But yeah, we used to be a bit kind of careless with things. Well, I definitely did. My uncle used to lend me loads of instruments, and they would come back to him in pieces, and I don't know what was wrong with me back then.
Do you still have a lot of like reel to reel for demos as well?
Yeah. I got a reel to reel. I record everything on it just because you can. It could be a usable thing because the quality is really good on it. It's like 1/2-inch tape, and the quality is good. So if you were putting down a demo, but it sounded like it could have been the actual take or whatever, then you can kind of keep adding to it. So yeah, I try and use the reel to reel just for everything I'm recording now. And since the Toe Rag thing, I've just been recording over the tape and not really thinking much of it.
At what point during the making of this new record do you feel like you kind of gained a full grasp and understanding of the soundscape of the album itself, and did the demos play any role in kind of speeding that process up?
I think we always knew that we wanted to do something kind of more stripped back with less layers and stuff like that. I think we always knew we were going to go in and do something like that. If someone had something to add, we'd try it out, and then if it wasn't necessary, then we wouldn't use it. But I don't actually think that that happen. I think everything we overdubbed kind of worked, and we added, but we knew not to crowd the songs, so we were kind of going in it with that intention of kind of leaving space and stuff like that.
What was the first song you finished once you were in there?
Cowboy.
Once you finish that, how does that impact what you do afterwards? Do you kind of have a clear focus in terms of tackling the other ones? Or why was that the first one you finished? Was there any particular reason for that?
I think it was like the most rehearsed one.
Yeah.
And it was going down like onto the tape really easily, and everything just felt good, and maybe that pushed us to get that one finished first. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I remember that was the first one, because me and Dan went in for what was it, like 2 or 3 days, and just did bass and drums on just as many as we could, and yeah, we did a few bass and drum tracks, and then went straight to overdubbing Cowboy, and it was just sounding really pleasant to us, you know, like
because we'd heard it like so many times on like rough phone recordings that we put in the rehearsal room and things like that. So to hear it coming through like the studio speakers was great.
Yes, it kind of gave me that, because I remember the first time we sort of listened to anything we did in an actual recording studio, and I remember feeling really excited about it, and I did get that a bit with Cowboy, so maybe that was why we decided to just sort of finish that one off before we moved on to anything. And then I think the second one was Love You'll Never Know.
It's an interesting one to finish second, because that's something that, similar to the final track on the album, is kind of taking in both the softer and the heavier side of it. That's like Cowboy tends to kind of, I guess Cowboy's kind of middle ground a little bit, isn't it? It kind of falls between the two.
Yeah, same with Love You Never Know. That was one we'd played that live a few times, and I feel like that might have been the first one that we could all just play from start to finish, and it sounded pretty, realized. I guess we were sort of really familiar with those two, more so than the rest of them, I think. So I think when I came back after all the stuff was done to do vocals, I chose to do them two first, just because I knew maybe I was a bit more familiar with them, and it would just be quicker to put them down, and then spent more time on the others. Like Meat Chuck, I really, everything to do with the vocal, that was like a real struggle, and I had to come back like loads of times to do the vocal for that. And then I think after another track, you know, because we never got the right vocal for it, and then I think Luke was like, "Oh, now that you're kind of warmed up, we'll try Meat Chuck again." And then I did it there, but that one took forever to do vocals.
It's probably the heaviest you get on the record.
Yeah, I think that's why it took forever, because I was started to choke on my own tongue.
Do you almost need a bit of momentum already in the process to then broach those songs that are at the extremes that have either side of the soundscape?
Yeah, I think because that other one, Everyone's Friend, that that was fairly easy to do, because it's just shouting. And then I think because I'd been shouting for a little while, I was kind of warmed up to do that one. So yeah, because Meat Chuck's, it's like shouted, but it's also, I don't know, like there's some attempt to like be in some kind of key as well, whereas with the Everyone's Friend, that one's just sort of, just shouting however you want. And then I think just after getting that momentum and kind of overcoming that sort of initial embarrassment of just kind of randomly screaming with headphones on, it's sort of, it's never come natural to me, the recording in like a, when you just record in the vocal. I always used to have to like hold a guitar or pretend that I was playing something to do it. So it has always been a bit of like a uncomfortable experience, especially when you're screaming and shouting, because then you just feel like the biggest weirdo ever.
So not even necessarily like playing the guitar, even just kind of miming.
Yeah,
just to try and get
just
something.
holding it, because you'd start just picking up the sound of like strings and stuff, so you just have to kind of pretend you're holding it. I mean, pretend you're playing it. I was actually holding a guitar.
Did you not get asked to mime guitar on X Factor once?
Wait, you did, Dan, didn't you?
No. You made that up because we were doing this radar piece for the NME, and they said like they wanted an interesting fact, and you just said that. It wasn't true.
Where did that come from?
I don't know.
No, wasn't it Izzy? Izzy.
Oh yeah, Izzy did that. Yeah.
So
Izzy, do you know the band Black Honey?
Oh, I interviewed Izzy a few months ago.
Oh yeah, so she did that. She actually did that. She was on it.
I'm going to ask her about that if she
Yeah,
comes back
yeah,
on the podcast.
She'll love to tell you about that. It's on YouTube as well. That it was with that Owen Quinn guy,
The little Irish guy.
Irish guy.
Oh, he was a kid.
If you remember him. No, well, he was a kid.
Oh, he was a kid.
That's why he was little.
I thought it was just for trashing this Irish guy.
No.